And for the 10th time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live, the weekly stream of consciousness conversation recording session where we take a rest, we sit back, prepare for the work week ahead by taking a look at the news stories and some of the other things that have happened in the past week. And I throw in some interesting little tidbits, little things of interest that I found over the course of the week that I wanted to talk about with you guys. But as I said before, this is a weekly stream of consciousness conversation recording session where we sit back, we talk about things that happened the previous week, and this is going to contain some material that may not be suitable for all audiences, some foul language. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, you're more than welcome to step away. And but if you're up to the challenge, let's sit back, relax, and as per usual, let's begin the conversation. And as per usual on this show, we start off by taking a look at the weekend box office, which was not exciting in any way, shape, or form. But then again, that's what happens when you don't have a big release like Dune opening up this weekend like it was supposed to, before the actor strike happened, which may or may not be done by the time this next week wraps up. They've been saying for the last 2 weeks, we're getting close to the end, and it's never felt like we're getting close to the end. So I don't know where we're going on that front here, but we do have a couple of movies that came out this week in wider release that made it into the top 5, so let's go ahead and talk about those briefly, because I really don't know too much about them myself. So let's go to the number 5 film, and that is Radical. This is like a movie this sounds like a title that you see in a 90s teen movie that would be playing on continuous airplay on the Disney Channel, like something like an Airborne or something like even something from the late 80s like Rad. But no, this is a much different type of Radical. It's got Eugenio Derbez, who was in Instructions Not Included, and I guess he's kind of one of the more well-known Mexican comedic actors right now. I mean, I don't know. I've seen him in a couple of things, but I've never seen him in anything too significant, nor have I heard too much about this movie here. But yeah, he plays a teacher in a Mexican border town full of neglect, corrupt, and violence, and tries a radical new method to unlock the students' curiosity, potential, and maybe even their genius. So sounds like another one of those movies like Dead Poet Society, or even something we looked at on Time About the Movies recently, Music of the Heart, a story we've seen done to death so many times, and only opened in 419 theaters and brought in $2.7 million. So for a film that I did not know too much about per se, so did pretty well. So it does have at least somewhat of Eugene Derbez has his audience. I mean, he's had his audience for a number of years. I talked about Instructions Not Included, which is a film I didn't even know about back in 2013 until it came out and people went to go see it. And ever since then, this guy's had a strong career, not doing a whole lot to put his name out there. He's been in a ton of stuff. He was most notably he was in Coda, but and also stuff like The Secret Life of Pets 2, Angry Birds 2. It was also Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which was probably his biggest release up to that point. But this film in particular did decent enough, and so hey, more power to him. So let's go to the number 4 film, and that is Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, which is making its wide debut this week after debuting in limited release last week. It brought in $5 million in 1,359 theaters, and so far its grosses up to $5.3 million, which has been getting some good word of mouth overall. I've heard some good things about this film. Let me see how good the word of mouth is here, just to make sure. Let's see. Yeah, it did pretty well. It got a lot of good reviews. The awards buzz on this is high, especially for Kaylee Spaney playing Priscilla Presley, and Sofia Coppola. So it should be a nice return to form for her. She's been kind of on not much of a downward spiral, but the last couple of movies she's done have not been as successful as some of her early works, like The Virgin Suicides or Lost in Translation. There's been a couple of good stuff here, good things here and there with Bill Murray that she did, but the word of mouth on this is very good, so we'll see if this movie comes around here. Maybe I'll check it out at some point, but I'm not making any promises on that front. But so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the number 3 film this week, and that is Killers of the Flower Moon, which after dropping off a bit from last week, held up pretty well this week. Only dropped about 25%, $7 million to $52.3 million, which could be attributed mostly because of the fact that there isn't a big new release this weekend that everybody's rushing out to see. So the holdovers are just not having the big drop-offs that they probably would have had if there was a big new release coming into the pipeline here. which is the case with the number 2 film, which is Taylor Swift: The Eras Tour, which only dropped 13% from last week. $13.5 million, $166 million, nothing too crazy on that front. And then the number 1 movie this week, which was the number 1 movie last week, Five Nights at Freddy's. And not surprisingly, that movie was heavily front-loaded because this thing fell off pretty quickly. 75.8% drop-off, 76% drop-off from the previous week, $19.4 million, $113.6 million, which for them it's not a big deal. This thing's made $20 million already, and you can also contribute to the fact that this is on Peacock right now, so there's no real reason to go see this in a theater right now. If you don't have a theater nearby, you can just go and watch it on Peacock. But they're fine. They're happy with this. $113 million over a $20 million budget. Add in the worldwide gross, it's over $200 million. They'll be fine. They'll be fine on that front. But then again, that's about it. All the other new releases here are mostly films you probably never even heard of. Meg Ryan had a new movie come out this weekend with What Happens Later, which barely made it into the top 10. There's The Marsh King's Daughter, which I know nothing about. But hey, Sony saw this as an opportunity and said, you know what we're going to re-release this weekend? Because I know there's a demand for it. Gran Turismo. They put this back in 1,400 theaters and didn't do so well. Only brought in $374,000, a per-screen average of $264. So, yeah, way to waste theaters' time with that, Sony. Yeah, nobody wanted to see Gran Turismo in theaters again. And, that's pretty much it. It was not a good weekend at the box office, but of course next week it's going to be about the Marvels, which does not sound like it's going to have the best opening, but I want it to be good. I really do want it to be good, man, but the early word of mouth on it is not sounding so strong, but we will wait to see what happens. We will wait to see what happens when the movie opens up next week. Hopefully it will be better than I have anticipated it will be, but I'm not making any guarantees on it. I'm still going in with some decent expectations, but it's not sounding promising early on. So, yeah, sluggish weekend overall at the box office. And with that said, let's get into some story time and have a little bit of a relationship to what I just talked about with Marvel. So the big news story this week came from Variety early in the week when they put out an expose talking about the situation going on at Marvel Studios and Disney. Of course, this has not been the best year for Marvel Studios and Disney for a number of different reasons. Ant-Man and the Wasp crashed and burned at the beginning of the year, and then the big story about Jonathan Majors happening with his domestic violence charges that put a damper on pretty much everything. And then it didn't help that Secret Invasion was seen as a big flop overall. But I'm looking at the story right now. This all came from a Variety story they did. And let's see if I can find a good starting point here. It starts off by talking about how the past September, a group of Marvel creatives, including Kevin Feige, assembled in Palm Springs for the studio's annual retreat. Most years, the vibe would be confident, even cocky, given how the premium superhero brand owned by Disney since 2009 has remade the entertainment business in its image. But this occasion was angst-ridden. Everyone at Marvel was reeling from a series of disappointments on screen, a legal scandal involving one of its biggest stars, and questions about the viability of the studio's ambitious strategy to expand the brand beyond in movies into streaming. The most pressing issue to be discussed at the retreat was what to do with Jonathan Majors, but instead, the actor who was poised to carry the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but instead is headed to a high-profile trial in New York later this month on domestic violence charges. The actress insists he is the victim, but the damage to his reputation and the chance he could lose the case has forced Marvel to reconsider its plans to center the next phase of its interlocking slate of sequels, spin-offs, and series around Major's villainous character, Kang the Conqueror. So, yeah, basically what happened with Jonathan Majors kind of started the downward spiral of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2023. And so continuing on here, at the gathering in Palm Springs, executives discussed backup plans, including pivoting to another comic book adversary like Doctor Doom, which would make sense because they're working on a Fantastic Four film. But making any shifts would carry its own headaches. Majors was already a big presence in the MCU, including as the scene-stealing antagonist in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was he really? I mean, if anything he was stealing it was in Loki, which is what they bring up here next. And he has been positioned as the franchise's next big thing in this season of Loki, particularly in the finale, which airs on November 9th, which they kind of already were setting that up to begin with, and sets up Kang as the titular star of a fifth Avengers film in 2026, the aptly named Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. So, beyond the bad press for majors, the brain trust at Marvel is also grappling with the November release of The Marvels, a sequel to 2019's blockbuster Captain Marvel that has been plagued with lengthy reshoots and now appears likely to underwhelm at the box office. So, they already know this thing is dead on arrival, probably. And, so that's not a good sign there. This is all an unprecedented turn of fortune for a company that has enjoyed a nearly uninterrupted spring of hits ever since it started independently producing its movies with 2008's Iron Man. That wildly profitable run culminated in the $2.8 billion success of Avengers Endgame, a high watermark for the studio that earned $30 billion over 32 films. And they kind of explain next what I think a lot of people kind of figured out, but the source of Marvel's current troubles can be traced back to 2020. That's when the COVID pandemic ushered in a mandate to help boost Disney's stock prices with an endless torrent of intercon Marvel content for the studio's fledgling streaming platform, Disney+. According to a plan, there would never be a lapse in superhero fare with either a film in theaters or a new television series streaming at any given moment. But the ensuing tsunami of spandex proved to be too much of a good thing, and the demands of churning out so many programming taxed the Marvel apparatus. Moreover, the need to tease an interwoven story over so many disparate shows, movies, and platforms created a muddled narrative that baffled viewers. This was kind of a thing that we kind of had set up beforehand. Like, you know, the whole thing was like, when they were putting these shows out, it was cool to get more Marvel, but you're asking people to not just watch the movies, but you need to watch all the shows, you need to watch all these little bits and pieces in order to understand what's going on. And when they did it back in the day, they didn't have to rely on shows to really do that. You could still do the shows and have its own storyline going, but now it's all being connected, and I think that was their biggest mistake going into this whole idea of what they were trying to do. Not to say that everything they've done was bad, but going back to the article here, they talk about the Marvels, which is struggling to get the ball past the infield, at least by Marvel's outside standards. The movie, which cost $250 million to make, and that's another problem. Everything in the Marvel universe is costing multiple amounts of money. That is money that you should not be spending a lot of money on. That you should not be spending $300 million on a Secret Invasion TV show. That's your first mistake right there. But I digress. The movie, which cost $250 million and see Brie Larson returning as Captain Marvel, is tracking to open to $75 to $80 million, far below the $185 million Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness took in domestically last year. Directed by Nia DaCosta, the Marvel unites Larson's heroine with two superpowered allies, Teyonah Parris' Monica Rambeau from WandaVision and Kamala Khan from Ms. Marvel, played by Iman Vellani. But instead of seemingly building on the success of Captain Marvel, the move resulted in 4 weeks of reshoots to bring coherence to a tangled storyline. Then eyebrows were raised again when DaCosta began working on another film while the Marvels were still in post-production. The filmmaker moved to London earlier this year to begin prepping for a Tessa Thompson drama, Hedda. And a source says, if you're directing a $250 million movie, it's kind of weird for the director to leave with a few months to go. Which, I don't know. Like, I don't know how the Hollywood system works, but I don't know how much the Hollywood system works, but I don't think that's much of a big deal. But for Marvel, apparently is. The Marvel has seen its release date move back twice, once to swap with Quantumania, which was deemed further along, and again, which, by the way, if you thought that was further along, and you put whatever the hell that MODOK was on there, that's, we need to talk about that Marvel, but, and again, when its debut shifted from July to November to give filmmakers some time to tinker, but that extra time didn't necessarily help. In June, Marvel, which traditionally only solicits feedback from Disney employees and their friends and family, took the uncharacteristic step of holding a public test screening in Texas, and the audience gave the film middling reviews. But Marvel has never been in the business of being average. I want to see where it gets to the parts about what they're planning on doing going forward. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Hold on one sec. So here it says, as public criticism mounts, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. Case in point, the Blade reboot, with Mahershala Ali signed on for the eponymous role of the vampire. Things look promising for a 2023 release date, but the project has gone through at least 5 writers, 2 directors, and 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. One person familiar with the script information said the story is at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the 4th lead, which, like, I don't get these movies where they try to they're supposed to be about the title character, and the title character is always the backup characters in here. Like, this is something that's been done for many, many years now, and I don't know how the hell you went from a movie about a vampire who goes around killing other vampires to a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Like, how do you do that? So amid reports that Ali was ready to exit over script issues, Faye went back to the drawing board and hired Michael Green, the writer of Logan, to start anew. Speculation around time is the studio is now looking to make the film, now slated for 2025, on a budget of less than $100 million, a deviation from Marvel's big spending strategy, which, good, that's what you should be doing. But, where's the big thing that they talked about in here that I wanted to delve into? Let's see. Okay, it's literally the next article, the next paragraph. With Iger's public acknowledgement, the downside of a Marvel TV glut that diluted focus and attention, the keepers of the comic book empire are considering some dramatic moves. Sources say there have been talks to bring back the original gang for an Avengers movie that would include reviving Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, both of which were killed in Endgame. And they say that shouldn't be a stumbling block in comic books because characters are often killed off only to be resurrected thanks to the power of things like in the multiverse. But the studio has yet to commit the idea, and I hope they don't commit to the idea because those characters died in Endgame for a reason. Bringing them back and just saying that nothing happened, and just saying that the whole thing that just happened with Avengers Endgame was completely moot, that's like, if you're going to bring them back, do it as a prequel. Do it as a story that takes place before the events of Infinity War and Endgame, but don't bring them back after the events just to make us believe that that's going to change everything that goes on at this point, because that just sounds like a lazy attempt to try to capture the magic from before. And I don't know. Like, I don't like that idea at all. I hope they don't go down that road, but you got to do something after what's happening with Jonathan Majors. Speaking of which, when the Quantumanium actor was arrested in March, Disney executives insisted they couldn't afford to play a wait-and-see game, given that Avengers: The Kang Dynasty was expected to begin around 2024. But then Majors was dropped in quick succession by his publicists and managers. The agency where he landed after CAA parted ways with him pre-arrest. In April, other alleged domestic violence victims began cooperating with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Then, ahead of a key meeting in October, Variety obtained a court filing that referenced a police incident in London involving Majors that led to his ex-girlfriend to seek medical attention. Quantumania as a movement coach of the London incident took place while Majors was still shooting season 2 of Loki. On October 25th, a New York judge denied Majors' movement to dismiss the case, which assumes the action will stand trial in late November. His legal team is attempting to keep some material in the case sealed. And a studio source notes that regardless of the actor's legal issues, Marvel has already had considered moving away from a Majors-led phase because of what happened with Quantumania. So they've done recasting before. I mean, they replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle, and that's worked out pretty well for them. But trying to see what else is in here, and there's not too much more here. But so basically, there's a lot going on at Marvel right now, and they're hoping that the big thing is that they have so many problems right now. They've got to put the focus on right now. You got to figure out what to do about Jonathan Majors. Are you really going to stick with the Kang thing? Are you going to recast him at some point? Are you going to try to bring back characters that have been dead for a cheap way to get more money back? I mean, I'm sorry, that idea of bringing Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson back after the fact, just like, it just doesn't. I just don't like that idea. And then you got to deal with the TV shows, the Secret Invasion controversy, and now they've got other movies coming out that look pretty cool. Like, I mean, Deadpool 3 under the MCU sounds awesome. A reboot of the Fantastic Four sounds awesome. There's a chance that if somewhere down the line they're going to reboot the X-Men franchise. I mean, they have to get it together, and they have to get it sooner rather than later, because right now things are not looking good right now for the MCU, and one would hope that things are going to change down the road, but it's just wait and see right now. We have to wait and see what happens. But this is a good little article I found here. I'll put a link to it in the description below so you can go check it out for yourself. So that's what's going on at Marvel and Disney. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So speaking of the Mouse House, they are the subject of our next story, because this story, also from Variety, talked about that Disney is on the cusp of becoming the 100% owner of Hulu. The media conglomerate announced that it was expected to pay $8.6 billion to Comcast to acquire the cable operator's 33% stake in Hulu following Comcast's November 1st exercise of its rights under the put-call arrangement between the two companies. Disney owns the other two-thirds stake in Hulu, and according to Disney, the acquisition of Comcast's stake in Hulu at fair market value will further Disney's streaming objectives. Under the terms of the sale agreement by December 1st, Disney said it anticipates that it will pay Comcast approximately $8.6 billion, representing NBC Universal's one-third stake of the $27.5 billion guaranteed floor value for Hulu that was set when the companies entered into their agreements in 2019, minus the anticipated outstanding capital call contributions payable by NBCU to Disney of approximately $567 million. So the basic thing is that Disney is essentially buying Hulu full-time. I mean, this really should not be that big of a surprise, considering that Disney has that Disney and FX and FXX and all their networks, excuse me, they've been touting Hulu for the longest time. So really, it's not that big of a shocker. Plus, Comcast and NBC also has Peacock. They're trying to establish that as its own thing. So overall, this isn't really that much of a shocking thing to do, and in the long run, it helps out both companies when it's all said and done. But back to the article here. The two sides have been far apart on the question of Hulu's market value. Comcast CEO Brian Roberts at a Goldman Sachs conference on September 6th touted Hulu as a scarce king-making asset and suggested eyebrow-raising value. According to Roberts, the synergies Hulu would afford a full owner are worth $30 billion, even before accounting for the value of Hulu itself. In a statement, a Comcast spokesperson said, "We look forward to the appraisal process and the determination of Hulu's fair market value, which we will expect will reflect the extraordinary value of the business." So according to Disney, they say if the equity fair value is finally determined to be greater than the guaranteed floor value, Disney will pay NBCU an amount equal to NBCU's equity ownership percentage of the equity fair value net of the guaranteed purchase price within 45 days of such final determination. While the timing of the appraisal process is uncertain, we anticipate it should be completed during the 2024 calendar year. Is there anything else of noteworthiness to bring up here? They talk about why Hulu is a long-time strategic asset worth retaining for Disney, and I kind of summed it up already, but the service will help the company's streaming bundles with Disney Plus and Hulu reduce churn and boost pricing power, according to Morgan Stanley analyst Benjamin Swinburne. That's key to scaling streaming revenues against a largely fixed cost base. And he wrote in a recent research note, on a Disney earnings call in May, Bob Iger announced Disney Plus's plan to combine with Hulu content into a unified streaming experience. So like I said, this is kind of something that's not really all that shocking, or something that is something that needs to be seen as something that's unusual. I mean, this is something that they've been kind of planning for a while now, and it makes sense on the part of Disney, you know. You have Hulu, you have Disney Plus, and most recently you've been seeing a lot of mixing between some things that you would see on Hulu on Disney Plus, some things you would see on Disney Plus on Hulu, and it's mostly corporate synergy. I mean, it's like I said, it's like why you see with shows on FX after the promos are done, it's like stream on Hulu and all that. Like, it makes sense why Disney and Hulu are trying to put together a unified streaming output. And like I said, Comcast will be fine. They'll have Peacock. They'll expand that. That'll be their primary service and all that. But I thought that was kind of, it's nothing too crazy about that. I just thought that was something interesting to bring up here. So the deal has not been officially done yet. They said that by December 1st, that should be when they put this together. But about $8.6 billion to get this done. So in a couple of weeks, Disney will have full control of Hulu. So that's that right there. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So we just had the first major firing in the National Football League. Josh McDaniels got fired on Tuesday, not even a day after their infamous loss to the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football, where Davante Adams had a big meltdown, Jimmy Garoppolo kept getting hit, and the team just looked bad. This is something that's been building up for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and it just goes to show that people really need to stop trying to copy the Patriots way, because, yeah, the Patriots do not do a good. The Patriots outside of New England do not do a good job of handling their own franchises. I mean, but it'd be easy if it was just, you know, the Raiders basically said, "Hey, Josh, we're done with you. Dave Ziegler, we're done with you. We need you you're fired." But no, it just cannot be that simple. So let's talk about the crazy week that happened that allowed us to get to this point where now, as I'm recording this right now, the Raiders with their new interim head coach Antonio Pierce are playing right now and are beating the tar out of the New York Giants. But let's get back to the day that this story broke. This broke at 1 a.m. Eastern Time on November 1st. This was literally into Wednesday morning. So they did this at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I guess 10 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Las Vegas time. And so simply, effectively, you could have just said, Raiders are letting go of Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. And then Antonio Pierce has been named the interim head coach. They also got rid of their offensive coordinator. But then, just after about a half hour later, there was the story that popped up on The Athletic. And two paragraphs in particular really struck out to me. And I feel like I should read them here. I've got it right here. So according to this article in The Athletic, the paragraph starts, apparently the last straw was when McDaniels, who is well known around league circles as a guy who goes all out for Halloween, came to the Raiders facility dressed as Mark Davis the day after losing to the Lions on Monday Night Football. Davis seemed to take it in stride at first. He appeared to laugh and even ordered his now trademark P.F. Chang's lunch delivered to Coach McDaniels to, quote, complete the look. After the two had eaten, Davis suggested McDaniels read his fortune cookie, which read, "You're fired, hotshot," according to multiple sources who viewed the dessert. Yeah. Talk about a way to find out that you're getting fired. I mean, just amazing. Like that. Like, say what you will about the Raiders, they are not the best run organization overall. But Mark Davis sure loves the dramatics. I mean, he got that from his father, Al Davis. But man, like, to go to that trouble and and not only to get that same meal, but to get a fortune cookie, take the fortune that was out there and put one that says, "You're fired, hotshot," and that's where we're at, and that's how Josh McDaniels found out he got fired. I mean, just, that's hilarious, and I gotta give Mark Davis a lot of credit for going all out on that front. I mean, that's just amazing, the effort and the time that he went to put that together. I mean, just like, you know, he's been building up to that for a while. There was no way in hell he just figured out to do that within the last 24 hours or even the last 12 hours before that, after that game ended. But yeah, more power to him, man. More power to him. But you would think that would be the end of it all, but nope. It gets even more crazier than you think, because not only is Josh McDaniels getting a big payout because of this, he's getting paid $85 million. They still got to pay his contract for the next 4 years, just like they did with John Gruden and his 10-year contract he signed back in 2018. But then there was a story that broke today. I found this on social media. This actually was on the Fox NFL broadcast earlier, but I found it on a tweet from Ari Mirov at My Sports Update. And he basically broke down what had happened the moment that Mark Davis knew that, you know, Josh McDaniels had to go, but and they had to hire the Antonio Pierce. But so the tweet says, before firing Josh McDaniels, the Raiders had a team meeting where players directed their frustrations at McDaniels and unloaded on him, which makes sense considering some of the stupid decisions he's made in the last year and a half. McDaniels had Antonio Pierce speak on his behalf, and Pierce brought up the Giants' 2017 that beat the new undefeated Patriots, explaining how the team believed they could beat anyone. Pierce said the Raiders need that mindset. The players all loved it, but McDaniels didn't. McDaniels told Pierce when everyone left, "Don't ever talk about the Patriots like that." To be that bitter about that, the time when the Giants, against all odds, beat the 16-0 regular season 2007 New England Patriots that were going to go 19-0 because they played in the divisional round first. And then to bring that up, like, Antonio Pierce was trying to lift the team's spirits and get on him, is to get the team to come together. And Josh McDaniels was just like, "Don't ever bring that up again." Like, dude, you got to let that go, man. Like, how many Super Bowls have you won as an offensive coordinator since then? But according to this, that's what everyone said, how divided the building was. That's what everyone saw, how divided the building was. And owner Mark Davis wanted Pierce as his head coach. And I mean, just the fact that you still are bitter about that after almost 20 friggin' years, you got to get over it, dude. I mean, like I said, you've won 3 Super Bowls as an offensive coordinator since then. And I'm sorry that you didn't get one when you were a head coach, but that's on you, buddy. Like, you need some maturity in your life. Like, everyone thought you had in your second run when you got this job, and no, it didn't. No, you still have a problem, and you and everybody else who went through the Bill Belichick coaching tree just need to get over it, man. Like, you need to get over that shit, man. I mean, to still have that bitterness after all these years, that'd be like the equivalent of the Cleveland Browns having bitterness from the Ravens because they won a Super Bowl 4 years into their time in Baltimore than any of their times in Cleveland. Like, you gotta let that go, man. You gotta let that go. You gotta let that slide. You gotta move on with your life, and you have to learn how to be a better. It's like, do you think most of these coaches that are in this league that came from coaching trees like the Don Shula coaching tree or the Bill Belichick tree or the Andy Reid tree are looking at you and going like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Like, he should be frustrated about that. And no, the only person who should be frustrated with that is you, man. Like, because you had a chance, like, because you weren't good enough to stop the Giants defense in that Super Bowl, and you're just like, you gotta let that go, man. Like, it's been over 15 years. Get on with your life and do something different. Like, Bill O'Brien, and Matt Patricia are the reason why nobody should be trusting anybody from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, because they want to be just like you, and they just can't. They want to be just like you at the Patriots, and they just cannot. Like, you cannot do that. But I just thought that was hilarious reading that story. I thought that was so hilarious how Josh McDaniels, A, found out he got fired, and B, what was the moment that finally broke the camel's back? The straw that broke the camel's back, man. What a way to find out. I mean, that's pretty friggin' amazing. But let's keep up with the NFL and talk about the trade deadline that happened recently. So last Tuesday was the 2023 NFL trade deadline, and what we saw last year with all the trade deadline moves that were made, like, everyone thought it was going to be another one of those. Like, we had like over 20 trade deadline moves that happened before the deadline last year, so everyone was thinking it was going to be the same thing, but not so much. 14 trades overall went down, and let's kind of run down some of the more notable ones. Probably the biggest one that shocked everybody was how the 49ers got Chase Young. And basically, what the 49ers did, they traded only a third-round pick to the Washington Commanders to pick up Chase Young, which I thought was pretty amazing that the 49ers were able to do that. And yet the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had been in contention maybe to go grab him, didn't even think to do that. I thought that was pretty amazing how the 49ers were able to do that. And they bolstered that defense, but really, it's not going to make much of a difference unless you have a real quarterback leading that charge. Because I'm sorry, Brock Purdy is not the answer. Like, everything about the 49ers is great for them right now except the quarterback. Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback. And we're seeing in the last 3 weeks how he is completely just fallen apart. And just, like, everybody's been able to figure out how to stop him. And the last 3 games have not been good for the 49ers, mostly because of Brock Purdy. They need to get a real quarterback in there, just like the Steelers need a real offensive coordinator for Kenny Pickett, but that's a whole other story altogether. By the way, the Steelers didn't do anything. A little peeved about that, even though they had so many opportunities. They almost got one person that I was kind of interested in seeing what they would do with him. But the Washington Commanders, yeah, they only got a third-round pick for 2024, which I don't know why you thought that was a good trade to do, But the Bears, they weren't done yet, because they also traded Montez Sweat to the Chicago Bears, and shortly after that, they gave Montez Sweat a $98 million contract for the Chicago Bears over 4 years. Like, I don't know why the Bears thought it would be time to go bring him in, because, he's good, but you guys are 2-6 right now, 2-7, I think, right now, because of what happened today. Yeah, 2-7 because they lost to New Orleans today. Why did you spend all this money to bring him in again? Like, I don't understand why you thought that you needed to get a guy like Montez Sweat in there so badly, even though how bad you guys are right now. But I guess for the Commanders, it kind of evened itself out because they got a second-round pick from them in 2024, so I guess that works for them. The Vikings got a quarterback after what happened to Kirk Cousins when he tore his ACL last week. Quarterback Josh Dobbs comes in, and they got a 2024 7th-round pick for that. And if you saw what happened today against Atlanta, man, Joshua Dobbs did pretty damn well. I mean, when he came back against the Falcons today, that was probably the most fun to watch them. I've seen watching the Minnesota Vikings play a football game because, I mean, he had full command of that offense in a critical moment, and he was able to pull it off just like that. I mean, that's the first time Josh Dobbs has ever had a winning drive like that in his entire career. Like I mean, in a game that really matters. But man, when he was in Pittsburgh and we saw him in the preseason, I mean, we saw a lot of that, especially in the early window. But man, good on Josh Dobbs, man, going in there. After what happened with Jaron Hall early on, he left the game with a concussion, so he had to step in. If I'm the Minnesota Vikings right now, I'd say keep Josh Dobbs in there at the starting position. I mean, he's proven that he could help this team around. He's got a lot of weapons there. He's got a lot of weapons that he did in Arizona, which, by the way, Arizona looked horrible today against the Browns. But then again, that's what happens when you start a rookie in Clayton Tune. Yeah. Minnesota won that trade, at least from the first day, at least. Seahawks, they got Leonard Williams. They got him from the New York Giants. Some help for that to boost that defensive front. New York Giants got a 2024 second round and a 2025 fifth round pick for that, so good for them on that. The Eagles traded for Kevin Byard from the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans got Terrell Edmonds and a 2024's first, fifth, and sixth round pick. And so far, it's working out for the Eagles. Titans, too soon to tell. The Bills traded with the Packers to get Rasul Douglas and a 2024 fifth-round draft pick, and the Packers got a 2024 third-round pick from them for that. So I was interested to see them do that. The Lions traded to get Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Cleveland Browns. The Browns got a 2025 sixth-round pick. The Jaguars updated their O-line with Ezra Cleveland from the Minnesota Vikings. They traded with the Vikings for a 2024 sixth-round pick. The Falcons added defensive line Kentavious Street and a 2025 seventh-round pick. They got that from the Eagles, who got a 2024 sixth-round pick in the process. Chiefs got McCole Hardman back from the New York Jets. The Jets got a sixth-round draft pick in 2025, while the Chiefs gave up a 2025 seventh-round pick. Falcons got Van Jefferson from the Vikings. The Rams, I should say, excuse me. I'm thinking of Justin Jefferson. A 2025 seventh-round draft pick from the Rams. The Rams got a 2025 sixth-round draft pick. The Bears sent Chase Claypool to the Miami Dolphins for then a 2025 seventh-round draft pick. And the Bears got a 2025 sixth-round draft pick for that. By the way, Bears, thanks a lot for Joey Porter Jr., and that's probably why they didn't trade with the Steelers for Jalen Johnson, even though they were considered the heavy front-runner. But Randy Gregory went to the 49ers, 2024 seventh-round draft pick. That went to the Broncos, and the Broncos gave back a 2024 sixth-round draft pick. And J.C. Jackson returned to New England, got a 2025 seventh-round draft pick to the Chargers for that, and the Chargers ended up giving them a sixth-round draft pick. So nothing too big except for the Chase Young and Montez Sweat trades. I think those were the two biggest ones overall. There were a lot of other ones too. Everyone thought Derrick Henry was going to move. I thought Derrick Henry would move to another team. I thought Saquon Barkley might be on the trade block, but there wasn't a whole lot of sellers this time around. So that is something that I thought was pretty interesting. That the two teams that went after the two big targets, Montez Sweat and Chase Young, were San Francisco, which probably won that bet, and then Chicago going after Montez Sweat, which is an interesting decision. I don't know if that's going to work out in the end, but we'll wait to see what happens on that front. So that's the trade deadline. Let's move on to our next story. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now officially into November, the first week of November, and you know what that means. Get ready for a whole lot of Christmas. And needless to say, the TV networks have already been putting out the Christmas commercials. In fact, they were doing a lot before the month even ended. We were already seeing commercials on television where they were promoting Black Friday sales. Amazon had a whole bunch of a bunch of commercials going on for the holiday season. A lot of the stores did. But on television, is around here we have a couple, around my neck of the woods here in western Pennsylvania, we have a couple of mostly local Christmas commercials. Although, if you go online, you can find them pretty easily. But you know the holidays are here when these commercials come on television every year. And so I want to talk about at least one of them, because not but an hour and 13 minutes into the month of November, did I turn on my television and I saw this commercial. Yeah, that's how you know. You can tell when Christmas comes around here in Western Pennsylvania, when you see that Pennsylvania Lottery Christmas commercial with the guy opening his window and giving everybody lottery tickets for Christmas. Yeah, I've got some shots. I've got some things I need to say about this one, because this is just one that I've always seen it. And as much as I love that commercial, I gotta say, man, it's kind of hilarious how they sell this to you. Let's go ahead and play that again. I want you to listen to this once again. Something you'll notice on this, if you go online, you see these. There's actually different versions of these commercials. I think because you have one of them that's in higher definition and widescreen. It's an HD upgraded version of this commercial. But in the olden days, they have pretty much the same commercial, the same setup, except it's typical standard definition stuff. And you can definitely tell the differences between how the music is played and how everything is kind of different from the standard version and the high definition version. But I'll show you the standard one in just a little bit here, but let's continue on. I gotta say, like, whenever he says that line, "Happy Holidays, Rita," I love how the lips don't even match, and it sounds like somebody's saying it anywhere else but where this guy is at right now. It sounds like "Happy Holidays, Rita." Like it's like that bad dubbing you used to hear in the Godzilla English dubs. It's like Godzilla. Like you can't, like they're still talking even after the lips are still moving even after they stop talking. But I just love that, and it's followed up by this. No, it's not. Just stop pretending like those lottery tickets are great gifts. Like, what a great gift! No, it's not a great gift if you don't win anything. It's a great gift if you win something, and then the next day that guy comes up to you. It's just like, "So I heard you won $1,000. I gave you that for Christmas. So how about coughing up the cha-ching there? Like it's a lose-lose situation, because if you lose, you lose. If you win something, you're going to be bugged by that person that gave you a gift for the next 2 weeks is asking you, "Hey, when am I going to get my cut on that?" But to say that that's a great gift, no, it's not, because 9 times out of 10, you don't win with the lottery tickets. I mean, let me put it this way: you'd be better off going to a casino for a couple of hours and playing games that you have going to play some games there, and you'll win more money there than you probably will in the lottery. I mean, I know that from experience, because I regularly go to the casino every once in a while. But let's keep it going, because they're still pushing on this fact that these make great gifts. No, they don't. They really do not. I mean, good Lord. Like I said before, like I remember there was a Shorties Watching Shorties segment on Comedy. It was a great show that was on Comedy Central, where they took stand-up comedians and bits and did animated sequences. And there's one, I was trying to remember who it was who did it. Jonathan Corbett is his name, and I'm trying to find the clip that it's in. I'm trying to remember which episode it was here, so that's why you might see a little bit of pausing here and there. I'm trying to find that particular clip there. It's actually Justin McKinney who does this bit, and it's this great bit where he starts out talking about how he spends all his time and money getting everybody these amazing Christmas presents, and in return he gets complete crap, and his uncle just gets him scratch tickets, and every single one of them is a loser. And at the end, he gets so mad that when the uncle tells him, "So what'd you get me for Christmas?" He's just like, it's out front. It's underneath all the snow," and he's digging up all the snow, and he literally writes on this thing, "Strawberry, try again." It's a really good funny bit. If you haven't, I can't find it on YouTube. I had to go to Comedy Central to remember who it was that actually did this bit. But it's a really good bit, by the way. You should check that out. But like I said before, this was a newer commercial compared to the older standard definition version. You can definitely tell the difference between the two of them. In fact, I got the original version here, so let's listen to it. And you can definitely tell it's an older commercial because this woman that's singing that part is not the same person that was singing it in the high definition version. I mean, but you can that's one of the things you can tell the difference of. But as we keep going, like that's not the same coffee shop that was in the old other commercial. That this one looks like it's connected to a building. The other one looked like it was standing on its own. And even the way he says "Happy Holidays, Rita," you can tell this guy was at least saying it on the set.
Happy holidays, Rita. Pennsylvania lottery tickets make great gifts, like the new $20 Merry Millions. Happy holidays.
So yeah, it's definitely different versions, but again, the whole idea of these commercials are to try to sell you that lottery tickets are the greatest gift you can give somebody that's inexpensive, and it will turn out in every way, shape, or form for them, which, you know, good and goddamn well that's not going to be the case, but yeah, we've got a lot of these commercials coming our way. If you haven't seen it, you can easily check it out here online, but if you're not in the Western Pennsylvania area, check it out online. But if you're in the Western Pennsylvania area, do not be surprised if you start seeing this commercial multiple times during the course of the week. So, with that said, let's move on to our next story. So as I mentioned before, we are at Christmas time, and that means on television, the Christmas schedule is going to get a lot more interesting in terms of like classics returning to your televisions for the first time this year. Some classics not returning, and I saw some of the schedules that came out in the last week, and I wanted to kind of delve into those. And we start off with the Freeform 25 Days of Christmas schedule, which, looking at it, really is not that impressive. Yes, it has a lot of stuff that we're used to watching on Freeform's 25 Days of Christmas. Disney Christmas stuff like the Home Alone movies, the Santa Claus films. Both the Grinches are going to be back on here this year. Night Before Christmas, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. Of course, you have Rudolph and Frosty back on here again. But when you look at some of the big premieres they have on here, there's nothing that really speaks out. Just a couple of Disney Plus movies. You have Godmothered, which was okay for what it was. The one with Jillian Bell in it as the fairy godmother, and then Isla Fisher was in that one. And then Noelle with Anna Kendrick, which should have been a lot better than what actually was. It was actually one of the first Disney Plus movies that came out when the streamer came out. But other than that, though, nothing too crazy on here. You got Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is a staple of the 25 Days of Christmas. Miracle on 34th Street, the 94 version. I think it's cool that Jingle All the Way is coming back this year. The original Arnold Schwarzenegger one, not the terrible Larry the Cable Guy one, even though that one's on there. The Family Stone, Toy Story. Toys, I guess that's why it's related to this 25 Days of Christmas, kind of like why Frozen's also on there too. Let's see, looking at the schedule here, and like I said, nothing too crazy or interesting speaking out in terms of this. Home Alone's going to be on multiple times, which I'm okay with that, because, when Hocus Pocus did it, I'm not a big Hocus Pocus person so when I did it on Halloween, I got it, but I never really liked those. I never really liked Hocus Pocus to begin with, but Home Alone I'll watch anytime, so I'm definitely looking forward to multiple viewings of this movie during the holiday season, so. But, yeah, Freeform doesn't really have anything too special going on this year, so I took a look at the other schedules that came out this week from the other networks, and let me see if I can find it here. You can find them on the Futon Critic, which is where you get some TV news updates there, and NBC has their schedule. I'll go to NBC last, because they have something on there they have probably the most notable changes of the group on here. But let me see if I can find CBS's, because I think that was the one that came out first. Yeah, I finally found it. CBS put theirs out weeks ago, so I'm just getting to it now. But I've seen it before, so basically nothing too special on CBS's front. You got the Thanksgiving Day Parade on the 23rd, the greatest at-home videos coming up on the day after Thanksgiving. There's going to be a week of Price is Right Christmas episodes in primetime in mid-December. A couple of other specials too, but like classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that's going to be coming on the day after Thanksgiving. And then stuff like Robbie the Reindeer is back. Frosty the Snowman and Frosty Returns. Nothing too crazy from CBS's part. CBS used to be the network to go to for the holiday specials, because they had all of those. They had Rudolph, they had Frosty, they had Charlie Brown Christmas, they had Garfield, they had Looney Tunes. I mean, they were the network to go to for the holiday specials back in the day. And then there was that point when ABC had that mark for a little bit, but now even ABC is kind of cutting down on those, as they're doing with this year's list of holiday specials. So I want to run through those real quick. So ABC, they've got your typical stuff here. They got the Great Christmas Light Fight, and of course they have the Wonderful World of Disney with their magical holiday celebration the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And because now it's on a weekly basis on Sundays, they have all these different holiday movies coming on there, including the Santa Claus on Sunday, the 3rd, and then you have Frozen on the 10th. They don't have anything listed for the 17th yet, so I don't know what's going on there, but on Christmas Eve, Home Alone is going to be on, so I guess that's the new tradition for ABC around Christmas time. I think maybe Sound of Music might be on December 17th. Because I think Sound of Music has been playing on ABC for the past couple of years now, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but you notice a lot of stuff that's missing on here. Like, they have Prep and Landing and Prep and Landing 2. They have the Toy Story The Time Forgot. Actually, no, I don't think I see Toy Story That Time Forgot. That's not on here this year. But they have, like, Mickey Saves Christmas, Olaf's Frozen Adventure. The most notable one that's missing besides Toy Story is Shrek the Halls. And Shrek the Halls is not on ABC this year, but it will be on the schedule this year. I'll get to that in just a second. But, yeah, ABC doesn't have the usual amount of holiday specials they used to have back in the day. Obviously, they got rid of the Charlie Brown specials, which became Apple exclusives. But, yeah, there was a point when once CBS kind of turned the mantle over to ABC for, like, the definitive place to find holiday specials. In the last couple of years, ABC's been the one that's been kind of pushing that off to the next network, which is NBC. Because in addition to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the SNL Thanksgiving Special they always do, the Dog Show, the Christmas at Rockefeller Center, they're doing stuff like Christmas at Graceland, they're doing a Blake Shelton holiday special, Christmas at the Opry, Barry Manilow's got a Christmas special this year, there's an SNL Christmas special, the Dolly Parton Christmas movies, The Coat of Many Colors. The notable ones, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one's back on NBC this year, so is It's a Wonderful Life. What's interesting is that they have the classic Grinch, and now they're going to have Shrek the Halls. It's the first time in the 15, 16 years that special's been out that's not going to be on ABC. So I guess NBC is now the place to find all the DreamWorks specials now, because they also have the Trolls Holiday and Harmony special coming up around that time. So I'm trying to see what else is on here of noteworthiness. I don't see anything else on here. I think they stopped playing the Grinch, the Illumination one, last year, even though it was on for just a couple of years. But yeah, NBC has kind of become that place to find the classic holiday specials now, even though there isn't that many. And Fox, you've got a couple of holiday specials there as well, but nothing too spectacular or interesting. It's just the Fox specials you think of, Masked Singer, Lego Masters, Master Chief Jr., your TMZ special, because TMZ and Christmas go together that perfectly. But holiday episodes of The Simpsons, Christmas episode, and a Thanksgiving episode, Bob's Burgers and Family Guy. TBS and TNT, I think, probably have the most interesting slate of holiday specials and movies on their schedule, quite honestly. Because the interesting thing with TBS and TNT is that they get a lot of their holiday movies and specials because they're owned by Warner Brothers. But then, once Thanksgiving is done and we move into December, most of those movies move over to AMC as part of their Christmas schedule. So I'm looking at the list of movies they have on here. You get A Christmas Story, of course. You gotta have the 24-hour marathons of those. But this year, A Christmas Story Christmas, the one from last year that came out, is going to be on TV this year, and I'm really happy about that. I really like that movie. It's going to give a chance for a lot of people to see that movie for the first time ever, and I think the first showing of that's going to be next Monday, so that one I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm glad to see 8-Bit Christmas is getting a TV premiere this year too. Really good movie. Kind of a Christmas story for the 1980s, a fun Christmas story version of the 1980s, except the BB gun in this case is a Nintendo Entertainment System. Modern Family, since that's been on TBS now for the last couple months, they've got Thanksgiving and holiday themed episodes planned for that. American Dad, they have a marathon of those. Friends, Big Bang Theory, a 24-hour marathon of Elf on the day after Thanksgiving. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation has a 24-hour marathon the Saturday after Thanksgiving. You also have the classic Chuck Jones, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Fred Claus is going to be on there. Jack Frost, the Michael Keaton film, The Polar Express, Four Christmases, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is also going to be on there, Office Christmas Party, Deck the Halls, The Year Without a Santa Claus, The Wizard of Oz, Arthur Christmas, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, as I said before, the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol from 1999, and the Family Matters Holiday Themed Marathon on the day before Christmas. So that's most of the major holiday specials on the schedule, and it's interesting how they pan this out. AMC hasn't put out their holiday schedule yet, but that'll come as the month goes on. Excuse me. It's, at points in this, I'm kind of a little bummed with how the holiday schedule this year kind of found its way around. Most notably because we've got a strike going on. There's not a whole lot of scripted programming going on right now. You don't think one of these networks should have looked at this and said, people are kind of peeved that the Charlie Brown specials aren't on television anymore and they're only exclusively to Apple TV, so why don't we put the extra money into it to Apple and say, hey, can we borrow this for 1 year because of the strike going on and put these on the air again? Like nobody should have to be forced to go to Apple to subscribe and watch the Charlie Brown specials. Like, I don't have to do that because I have the movies on a DVD and Blu-ray, but still, come on, those are the type of specials that should not be forced to streaming only, and I'm very bummed about that. I think a lot of people are really bummed about that. PBS should have brought it back on at least. There was no reason for PBS not to pair up with Apple again for the foreseeable future for the Charlie Brown specials. But that's just my personal take on it. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. This is my favorite time of the year. The holiday specials are on. I have to watch them no matter what. So regardless, I'm going to find ways to watch these classic specials no matter what happens. So yeah, nothing too spectacular to talk about there. I just thought I wanted to bring that up because of the schedules getting announced this week. But let's wrap our show up by looking at some recommendations for the week. It is not a big newer release week. The biggest new release of the last year is Gran Turismo, coming out this week on Blu-ray. And I don't think anybody should really want to watch that movie. But there are classic movies getting newer restorations, new 4K releases, most notably Violent Night, which I got the steelbook for yesterday because I pre-ordered it through Best Buy. Great underrated movie from last year with David Harbour as this John McClane as Santa Claus going around beating terrorists up. It's basically what Die Hard would be if it was a literal Christmas movie, and it's awesome. Also, in terms of great, awesome Christmas movies that are much darker than you'd expect, Scrooge is getting a 4K release for the first time ever. So that comes out this week. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to checking out. Trading Places, another classic movie, getting a 4K release for the first time ever. But other than that, though, it's a pretty slow release week in terms of newer releases. I don't see anything else on this list here that I say you should I recommend checking out. But Violent Night, Scrooge, and what was the last one I said? Trading Places. Those are ones I'd recommend. Also, if you want to upgrade to Fargo, Casino, Witness, Scarface, American Graffiti, I guess I should throw those in there as new 4K updates. So, yeah, those are some recommendations for the week. And with that said, that's going to wrap up another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. So, thank you guys for watching so much. Thanks for making the last episode we did our most viewed episode yet, which is at 17, which is not much, but it's a step in the right direction. We're on our way. And we just passed 20 subscribers on that channel, so hopefully we can get that to get bigger as the time goes on here. But thank you guys for coming in, and I hope you guys have been enjoying this. And if you want to see more of these videos that we've done, check out the link below to see the episodes we've done. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time for the next episode. So until then, thanks for watching, and we are out.